Welcome back. Hope you guys are doing well and hope that you are fired up to learn some more practical wisdom for everyday life. Show of hands. Who here wants to get wiser today? JK, I can't see any of you guys. Put your hands down. Now, as you probably know, we are going through the book of James. And this is a really interesting book of the Bible because James has a very unique and up close and personal experience with Jesus because he actually is his brother. Today we're going to look at chapter 3 of James, which is talking all about taming the tongue and the power of words. Now, as I said that, maybe a few were like, yikes, catch me in the Fortnite lobby, I've used some powerful words, all right? Or maybe you're like, you know what, this can be a breeze. Low-key, just a quiet type, doesn't really apply to me. Well, this chapter is for both of those groups and everyone in between. James opens up this chapter by saying this. He says, we get it wrong nearly every time we open our mouths. If you could find someone whose speech was perfectly true, you'd have the perfect person in perfect control of life. No offense, but I know none of you guys are perfect, all right? I'm not perfect. My dog Zeus, pretty close to perfect. But the point that James is trying to make is that we all fall short of perfection, especially with our words. James goes on in the next verse by saying, a bit in the mouth of a horse controls the whole horse. A small rudder on a huge ship in the hands of a skilled captain sets the course in the face of the strongest winds. A word out of your mouth may seem of no account, but it can accomplish nearly anything or destroy it. When J.K. Rowling was trying to publish Harry Potter, she was faced by rejection after rejection. She was turned down by dozens of publishing companies saying that the book was too long, not worth the risk, not marketable, all these things. And it was starting to take a toll on her. She was a single mother and she was relying on welfare to provide for her family. Now, she ended up sending out one more manuscript to a publishing company, and the chairman of that company ended up giving the first chapter of her book to his daughter to read. His daughter ended up loving the first chapter, saying great things about it and wanting to read more. This young girl's encouragement was a pivotal moment that convinced the chairman to publish the book and turn Harry Potter into a worldwide sensation. When Denzel Washington was in college, he was struggling to find a direction in where he should go. And one day he was in his mom's beauty shop. I don't know what that is or if they still have them. But a woman came up to him and said, you were going to travel the world and speak to millions of people. Denzel went on to become a huge actor, winning multiple film awards. Steven Spielberg, who is one of the greatest writers, producers, and directors of all time, who is responsible for movies like Jaws, E.T., Jurassic Park, and Indiana Jones, bangers, was rejected from film school. One of his mentors told him that his ability to captivate the audience and inspire through storytelling was more important than any formal training. Now, if that little girl didn't encourage her dad to publish Harry Potter, would J.K. Rowling be who she is today? I'm not sure, but I know that that was a pivotal moment in her journey. Would we have movies like Jaws and E.T. if Spielberg's mentor didn't give him the advice and speak confidence into his life? Who knows? Our first question today is, what is the best advice that you have ever been given? So take a minute as a small group and answer that question. A word out of your mouth may seem of no account, but it can accomplish nearly anything or destroy it. A long time ago, there was a boy who was very, very passionate about art, and he aspired to be a famous artist. He applied to the Academy of Fine Arts, Vienna, where he got rejected not once, but twice. The letters of rejection stated that he lacked talent, should give up art, and try architecture. His father, who was said to be abusive, dismissive, consistently undermined this boy's aspirations, belittling him and making him feel inadequate. Words of hurt and hate were planted in this boy's heart and were one of the factors that led him to become one of the worst dictators ever. His name was Adolf Hitler. I don't need to tell you guys that words hurt because I know that you've experienced this in your own life. I know that somewhere along the line, someone has spoken words to you or about you that planted seeds of doubt, insecurity, and pain in your heart. Words hurt and they can leave deep scars. My next question that I want you guys to answer is, what was a time when someone used words to tear you down? Words have power, and no matter how insignificant you think they are, all words have power. There are two types of words that we can speak. We can speak words of life and words of death. Words of life are words that build up, inspire, uplift, and encourage. These are also words that are true. You can't claim to speak words of life if they're just flattery and false. Words of death are words that tear down, discourage, and damage someone's self-esteem, purpose, and identity. Like James said, a word out of your mouth may seem of no account, but it can accomplish nearly anything or destroy it. Both words of life and death can come in two forms, intentional and unintentional. We can intentionally build someone up or tear someone down. Or we may think that our words have no impact and unintentionally build or break someone. It takes effort to speak words of life, and that's why when we find ourselves in a place of maybe jealousy, anger, impatience, and so on, it's so easy to accidentally speak words of death. A while ago, Pastor Spencer invited myself, my girlfriend, and some other friends over to his house for a games night. And listen, I was like fired up. I was so excited to go there, but Emily was a little bit nervous because I hang out with this group of people all the time, okay, because I work with them, but Emily hasn't really seen them before, okay? Like she's met them a few times very briefly at this moment. And so she was telling me she was a little bit nervous. She didn't know what to expect. And you know what? Fair enough. That is totally reasonable, okay? So the day of, I was ready to rip, and she was telling me this, and I was like, oh, you've got to be kidding me. You know what? Just don't come then. And shoot, did I ever mess up? Because in that moment, instantly, I'm like, I'm cooked. I'm going to regret this for the rest of my life. I was like, I'm sorry, I'm stupid. Your hair looks really, really good today. Now, I know that I messed up, and luckily, she's the best ever, and she forgave me, but that's how easy it is to speak words of death. Now, obviously, I wasn't trying to hurt her, but I just blurted something out that I didn't think would matter, but it did. Now, it is really easy to speak words of death to others, but I found that it's actually often easier to speak words of death to ourselves. And I bet that you guys feel the same way. The second greatest commandment in the Bible, which is to love others as you love yourself, can be quite difficult if you don't love yourself with your own words. Just because how we speak to ourselves isn't often out loud, it's easy to dismiss the power of it. If you leave today and only speak life to one person, I really hope that you can make that one person yourself. Our next question that I want you guys to answer is, when was a time that you said something that you regretted? So take a minute and talk about that as a group. James says in verse 5-8, it only takes a spark, remember, to set off a forest fire. A careless or wrongly placed word out of your mouth can do that. By our speech, we can ruin the world, turn harmony to chaos, throw mud on a reputation, send the world up in smoke, and go up in smoke with it, smoke right from the pit of hell. This is scary. You can tame a tiger, but you can't tame a tongue. It's never been done. The tongue runs wild and kills with no justification or mercy. Why is that? How can humans tame lions and tigers and bears, oh my, but we can't tame our words? Well, like James said at the beginning, we aren't perfect. However, God is, and with his help and his grace, we can do better. Our lead pastor, Pastor Mike, often quotes the first 3 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous that state, I can't, God can, I think I'll let him. And when we bring God into our lives every day, he actually affects everything that happens. And if we let him, he can actually affect the way that we speak. The way that we speak about things often is also the way that we're portrayed. So if someone speaks positively about others and uses words of life to build others up, they will be perceived as a positive person. But The same is true for someone who speaks poorly about others. Maybe they tear people down, or they always have something negative to say. They'll be portrayed as a negative person. I definitely know, and as I shared earlier, it's not easy to always speak words of life. But I also know that with God's help, we can work towards that. My closing point is for the group of people that I talked about at the beginning, the low-key quiet type, you know what I'm saying? Maybe you choose to keep to yourself and not speak up because of insecurity. Or maybe that's because some point in your life you were told a lie that what you have to say doesn't matter. Or maybe it's just because you want to seem mysterious or nonchalant or whatever. But words are powerful, and more important than that is that your words are powerful. Saying that you've tamed your tongue, but instead you just choose not to speak up, is actually just as harmful as using words of death. All of those stories at the beginning talking about people who were spurred on to success happened because people were courageous enough to speak words of life to others. Alone, we can only do so much, but when we ask God to be a part of it, He can use those words of life to do so much more. Each day, as you guys interact with others, you have an opportunity to speak words of life into situations of others. My last question for you guys is one that I want you to think about as you go throughout your week. I don't want you to answer it now, just think about it. Do you want to be someone who speaks words of death or words of life? Maybe you're here tonight and you are someone who has had words of death spoken to you. And I want to create an opportunity for you and your leaders to pray together and to speak words of life into you. And as you guys go throughout your weeks, I want you to look for opportunities that you can speak words of life into the lives of others. Subscribe, hit the bell. Thanks for watching.